The diplomatic vessel Harmonious Accord drifted silently outside Earth's orbit, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight across the blackness of space. Inside, Junior Diplomatic Officer Sunwoo fidgeted with his uniform as he prepared the meeting chamber. Today would mark the first official contact between the Galactic Confederation and humanity. "You seem troubled," observed Ambassador Minjae, his translucent tentacles arranging ceremonial artifacts on the central table. "I've studied their broadcasts extensively," Sunwoo replied. "Humans are unpredictable. They fight wars among themselves over resources, beliefs, even abstract concepts. Their entertainment glorifies conflict." Minjae made the dismissive gesture common to the elder species of the Confederation. "All young races pass through violent phases. We've successfully integrated hundreds of species. None quite like these humans," Sunwoo muttered. The delegation from Earth arrived precisely on schedule. 5 humans, 4 males, and 1 female, dressed in formal blue uniforms adorned with metallic symbols that Sunwoo recognized as military rank insignia. His antenna twitched nervously. Why send military representatives to a peace conference? Supreme Ambassador Juan Park of the Confederation floated forward, her body illuminating with the traditional greeting colors of welcome. The lead human, Admiral Doyan, stepped forward with his right arm outstretched. "What is this gesture?" Juan asked through the translator. "A handshake," explained Doyan. "A traditional human greeting showing we come unarmed." Juan extended a tentacle. As their appendages touched, her sensory receptors detected an alarming spike in the human's adrenaline and other combat chemicals. Throughout the Confederation, such biochemical signatures indicated imminent attack. "Threat detected," shouted Security Chief Tayo, his exoskeleton flaring. The security team immediately surrounded the Confederation representatives. "What's happening?" Doyan demanded, his hand moving instinctively toward his side where a ceremonial weapon was holstered. "They're reaching for weapons," cried one of the security team. What happened next occurred in seconds, but would be analyzed for years afterward. Security Chief Tayo deployed his defensive field, which knocked the humans backward. Admiral Doyan, interpreting this as an attack, drew his ceremonial blade. The Confederation security team responded with suppression gas that was harmless to their species but toxic to humans. Sunwoo watched in horror as the human delegation collapsed, gasping for air. The lone female, Commander Haisu, managed to activate her emergency beacon before losing consciousness. "What have we done?" Sunwoo whispered. Within minutes, the human vessel outside fired warning shots across the Harmonious Accord's bow. Supreme Ambassador Juan immediately ordered retreat, and the diplomatic vessel jumped to faster-than-light travel. 3 days later, the Confederation High Council convened an emergency session. "They attacked our diplomats," insisted Juan Park, her tentacles rippling with agitation. "The humans claim we attacked them first," countered Sunwoo. Their biochemical responses were simply nervous excitement, not aggression. Admiral Kanki of the Confederation Defense Force stood tall at the center of the council chamber. "Regardless of who misunderstood whom, we face a critical decision. Our intelligence indicates humans are mobilizing their military forces. They've activated dormant shipyards on their moon and outer planets. Surely they wouldn't dare attack the Confederation?" asked Counselor Yuna. "Humans have a long history of responding disproportionately to perceived threats," Sunwoo explained. "They call it sending a message." Admiral Kanki's visual receptors narrowed. "Then perhaps we should send one first. I propose a limited strike against their Mars colony. Enough to demonstrate our technological superiority without causing excessive casualties." Sunwoo rose from his seat, breaking protocol. "That would be a catastrophic error. Attacking any human settlement would unite their entire species against us. Your concern for these primitives is noted, Junior Officer," Kanki replied coldly. "But the security of the Confederation must take priority." The Council voted 12-3 in favor of the preventative security action. Only Sunwoo and 2 others dissented. 5 Confederation warships departed for the Mars colony the following day. The attack was precise by Confederation standards, targeting only military installations and infrastructure. 27 humans died. The response came hours later. Every Confederation communication channel received the same message, broadcast in the major languages of all 17 member species. This is President Geo Kim of the United Earth Government. Your unprovoked attack on our Mars colony constitutes an act of war. We demand your immediate withdrawal from our solar system within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in our full military response. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our people. In the council chamber, Admiral Hunky replayed the message with something approaching amusement. They speak as if they were addressing equals. We should respect their deadline, urged Sunwoo. At least until we better understand their capabilities. Absolutely not, Hunky replied. Retreating would suggest weakness and invite further demands. The Third Fleet will proceed to Earth to neutralize their orbital defenses. 3 days later, Fleet Commander Shunho guided the Third Fleet into position around Earth. The flotilla consisted of 7 capital ships and 23 support vessels, a force sufficient to subdue most emerging spacefaring civilizations. Sir, reported Tactical Officer Doyun, we're detecting unusual activity on the far side of their moon. Elaborate, ordered Shunho. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Massive power readings. Sunwoo, who had insisted on joining the fleet as an observer, felt his blood cool. Commander, I recommend we withdraw immediately. Nonsense, Juno replied. Open communications with their government. Inform them they have 6 hours to surrender control of their orbital defense grid. The response came not from Earth's government, but from what appeared behind their moon. 6 vessels emerged, each nearly twice the size of the Confederation's largest capital ship. Their design defied Confederation aesthetics. Angular, heavily armored, with weapon systems protruding like spines from every surface. What are those? Whispered Juno. Human battleships, Sunwoo replied quietly. They'd been preparing for this possibility longer than we realized. They're powering weapons, shouted Doyun. Neutralize them, ordered Juno confidently. Standard containment protocol. The Confederation ships fired first, their energy weapons striking the lead human vessel. To everyone's shock, the massive ship absorbed the assault with minimal visible damage. How is that possible? Demanded Juno. No shield technology should be able to withstand that barrage. On the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, Captain Minji Kim watched the alien weapons dissipate against their advanced armor. Years of studying potential extraterrestrial threats had prepared humanity for this moment. All batteries, return fire, she ordered calmly. Targeted response only. The human battleships opened fire with precision. Rather than destroying the alien vessels outright, they disabled propulsion and weapon systems one by one. It was the kind of restraint only a species intimately familiar with warfare could exercise. Within 30 minutes, the mighty Third Fleet had been reduced to drifting hulks. Commander Shunho stared in disbelief at the tactical display showing his defeated forces. Contact the High Council, he ordered hoarsely. Tell them not to send any more ships. Sunwoo looked at the human battleships looming on the view screen. For the love of all that's sacred, he whispered, we must never let them have reason to unleash their full capabilities. On Earth, President Geo Kim addressed his military commanders. We've demonstrated our resolve. Now let's show them our wisdom. Open a channel to whatever leadership remains of their fleet. The first true dialogue between humans and the Confederation was about to begin, born in the aftermath of tragic misunderstanding. Sunwoo stared at the holographic display with growing unease. The reports coming in from the frontier species painted a disturbing picture of humanity that the Confederation had severely underestimated. He scrolled through the data as emergency alarms continued to sound throughout the Galactic Council headquarters. You requested these intelligence files specifically, said June, the chief intelligence officer. She stood beside him, her usually composed features showing rare concern. "What are you looking for?" "Something that explains what we witnessed," Sun Wu replied. "No species should have been able to defeat our third fleet so efficiently. I need to understand what we're facing." The holographic display shifted to show footage captured by reconnaissance drones. Human ships were moving out from Earth's orbit, forming defensive positions around their colonies. Their vessels looked crude compared to the sleek designs of Confederation ships, but their bulk hinted at heavily armored hulls and redundant systems. "Play the Zorillian trader's testimony again," Sun Wu requested. The hologram changed to show a fuzzy image of a six-limbed trader species. The Zorillian spoke in its native tongue, with translation text appearing below. "We call them the ones who fight without logic," the trader said, nervously grooming its facial tentacles. "3 cycles ago, pirates attacked our transport near their territory. A small human vessel responded to our distress call. The pirates damaged it severely. By our calculations, the humans should have retreated when their hull integrity fell below 40%. Instead, they continued fighting until the pirates fled, even though their ship was venting atmosphere in 3 sections." June shook her head. "That contradicts all rational combat doctrine." "That's exactly what makes them dangerous," Sun Wu replied. "Show me the Kandaran report." A new image appeared. A military report from a species on the rim of explored space. "We engaged what we believed was a damaged human mining vessel trespassing in our territory," the report stated. Standard intimidation protocol was deployed. The vessel appeared to be crippled, but then counterattacked with hidden weapon systems. "We lost 2 patrol ships before retreating. Recommendation: avoid human vessels of any classification unless prepared for full military engagement." Admiral Hunky entered the intelligence center, his face dark with anger following the emergency council meeting. "Officer Sun Wu," he said stiffly, "the council wants your assessment of the human threat immediately." "I'm still gathering information, Admiral," Sun Wu replied. "But one pattern is clear. We severely underestimated them." "Impossible," snapped Hunky. "Their civilization is barely 5,000 years old. They've had faster-than-light travel for less than 2 centuries. They cannot possibly pose a serious threat to the Confederation." Sun Wu pulled up a new file. "This is an intercepted communication between human military vessels from 6 months ago, before our first contact." The recorded voices filled the room. "Admiral Park, the new Dreadnought-class vessels are ready for your inspection." "Excellent, Captain Minji." "And the Planet Cracker weapon systems. Operational but untested in actual combat conditions. We hope they'll never be needed." "As do I, Captain. But the universe is vast, and we must be prepared for anything." Hunky's expression faltered slightly. "Planet Cracker? Surely that's just intimidating terminology." "Perhaps," Sun Wu conceded, "but our analysts have examined human historical records. They evolved on a planet with large predators and developed pack-hunting strategies. Their entire history is filled with warfare. They don't just fight. They study combat. They theorize about it. They simulate it for entertainment." Fleet Commander Shunho had joined them, his normally pristine uniform still bearing scorch marks from the battle. "They let us live," he said quietly. Everyone turned to him. "They could have destroyed us completely," Juno continued. "Their weapon systems were vastly superior, but they deliberately targeted non-essential systems. They disabled rather than destroyed. A tactical decision, perhaps," suggested Hunky, "to capture our technology." Sun Wu shook his head. "No, I believe it was restraint. They wanted to send a message without causing unnecessary casualties." June brought up a new display showing the human military command structure. "Their naval forces are particularly concerning. Notice their vessel classifications: destroyers, cruisers, battleships, dreadnoughts. Their language reflects their approach to warfare." "What do you mean?" asked Hunky. Sun Wu nodded. "And yet, despite this apparent aggression, multiple reports indicate they show unexpected mercy. The Kizan delegation mentioned humans rescued their stranded research team despite being under no obligation to do so. The emergency alarm suddenly intensified. A communications officer rushed into the intelligence center. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They've deployed additional vessels from their outer colonies. Current count stands at 23 battleships, 47 cruisers, and over 100 smaller combat vessels." Hyunki's face paled. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicated they had only 6 capital ships." They kept their true military capacity hidden, Sunwoo realized. What we faced was only their immediate response force. The main display activated, showing a human officer in a dark uniform adorned with gold insignia. Even through the translator, her voice carried unmistakable authority. "This is Fleet Admiral Hyasu Park of the United Earth Navy. We await your response to our previous communication. Be advised that our Jupiter and Saturn defense fleets have been mobilized. We have no desire for further conflict, but we are prepared to defend all human settlements." When the transmission ended, the room fell silent. "They're giving us another chance to negotiate," Sunwoo said, "despite our attack on Mars." Hyunki seemed less certain than before. The Council must be informed of this development immediately. As the Admiral left, Sunwoo turned to a restricted database terminal. Using his diplomatic clearance, he accessed files normally kept from junior officers. He needed to understand what other species knew about humans that the Confederation had ignored. The files revealed disturbing patterns. Multiple species reported encounters with human vessels that defied conventional military logic. Damaged human ships continuing to fight when retreat was the only reasonable option. Small human vessels deliberately drawing fire to protect civilian transports. Human captains refusing to abandon damaged ships even at the cost of their lives. One report particularly caught his attention, a psychological assessment compiled by the Athraxi, known for their telepathic abilities. Humans possess a unique psychological trait we term protective rage. The report stated, when threatened directly, they respond with calculated force. When their young or vulnerable populations are threatened, they respond with overwhelming force that appears disproportionate to the threat. We strongly advise against any action that might trigger this response. Sunwoo downloaded the files to his personal device. The Confederation's leadership needed to understand what they were facing before they made another catastrophic mistake. Later that evening, as emergency meetings continued throughout the Confederation headquarters, Sunwoo made a decision that could end his diplomatic career. Using an encrypted channel, he established contact with a human diplomat he had briefly met during the preparation for the first contact mission. The human's face appeared on his private screen. Diplomat Lee, a middle-aged woman with calm eyes that seemed to assess Sunwoo carefully. "This is an unexpected communication, Officer Sunwoo," she said. "Diplomat Lee, I'm contacting you without authorization because I believe there's still a chance to prevent further bloodshed. The Confederation doesn't understand humans, and that ignorance could lead to galactic war." Lee's expression remained neutral. "You attacked our Mars colony without provocation. A terrible mistake based on cultural misunderstanding and pride," Sunwoo admitted, one eye opposed. "But there are those in the Confederation who still don't comprehend the threat humans pose if pushed further." For the first time, Lee smiled slightly. "Perhaps you're the first of your kind to truly understand us. We don't want war, Officer Sunwoo, but we've prepared for it since we first looked to the stars. Help me convince both sides to step back from the brink," Sunwoo pleaded. "Before your battleships join this fight in earnest." The command deck of the Confederation flagship Righteous Harmony hummed with tension as Fleet Commander Junho studied the tactical display. The Third Fleet had been rebuilt after its devastating defeat near Earth 3 weeks earlier. This time, they would not underestimate the humans. "All vessels report ready for transition to faster-than-light travel," announced First Officer Doyun. "Course plotted for the human colony on Europa. Our vessels have names that reflect their function: diplomatic escort, trade protector, exploration vessel. Even our military ships have names like defensive guardian." Human ships carry names explicitly tied to concepts of destruction or domination. Shunho nodded with grim determination. The Council believes a decisive strike against their outer colonies will demonstrate our resolve without directly threatening their homeworld. Once they understand our true military capability, they will negotiate from a position of respect. Sunwoo, who had been ordered to join the fleet as a cultural advisor despite his objections, stepped forward. Commander, I must again voice my concern. Every piece of intelligence suggests attacking any human settlement will only escalate the conflict. Your concerns are noted, diplomatic officer, Junho replied coldly. But the decision has been made. The humans must learn that one victory does not make them our equals. The fleet of 30 vessels, including 10 newly commissioned heavy cruisers, vanished into fold space, reappearing hours later near Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Europa had been humanity's first major off-world colony, established 50 years earlier. Its vast subsurface ocean housed over 40,000 colonists. No defensive fleet detected, reported Tactical Officer Kyunho with evident surprise. Only minimal orbital installations. Shunho frowned. Curious. Our intelligence indicated this was a heavily defended position. Perhaps they've concentrated their forces around Earth, suggested Doyun. Or this is a trap, Sunwoo said quietly. Shunho hesitated only briefly. Proceed as planned. Target their communication arrays and power generation facilities only. This is to be a precise operation. The Confederation vessels moved into attack formation, their energy weapons charging. The first salvos struck Europa's surface installations with surgical precision. Defensive shields around the colony flickered and failed. Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the far side of Jupiter, reported Sensor Officer Jai. Before Juno could respond, space itself seemed to tear open as human vessels emerged from what appeared to be artificial wormholes, a technology the Confederation had theorized but never successfully implemented. Impossible, whispered Doyun. They shouldn't have jump point technology. The human vessels that appeared were unlike those they had encountered at Earth, where those had been large but recognizable as warships. These were monstrous. 3 massive ships led the formation, each nearly the size of a small moon, their hulls black and angular, absorbing rather than reflecting light. What are those? Junho demanded. Sunwoo accessed the intelligence files on his terminal. Based on intercepted communications, those appear to be what humans classify as dreadnoughts, their heaviest class of battleship. Behind the dreadnoughts came smaller vessels, though smaller was relative, as each still dwarfed the Confederation's largest cruisers. All vessels, assume defensive formation, ordered Junho, his voice steady despite the sudden shift in circumstances. Prepare all weapons. The communication officer turned from her station. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. The main view screen activated to show a stern-faced human female in a black uniform adorned with gold insignia. This is Admiral Minji Kim of the United Earth Fleet. You have attacked a civilian colony under our protection. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Junho straightened his posture. This is Fleet Commander Junho of the Galactic Confederation. Your colony harbors military installations that threaten Confederation security. We demand your immediate surrender. Admiral Kim's expression didn't change. You were warned after Mars. You chose not to listen. The transmission ended abruptly. They're powering weapons, reported Tactical Officer Kyunho. All vessels, open fire, Junho ordered. The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams and projectiles. The Confederation ships fired with precision, their targeting computers selecting what appeared to be vulnerable points on the human vessels. Their weapons struck true, but seemed to have minimal effect against the massive human ships. Their armor is absorbing our energy weapons, reported Kyunho with growing alarm, recalibrating to frequency rotation patterns. The human response came seconds later. But rather than the expected energy weapons, their ships launched what appeared to be physical projectiles. What are those? Demanded Junho. Kinetic penetrators, Sunwoo replied, horror dawning on his face. Physically accelerated weapons designed to breach energy shields through brute force. The first wave of penetrators struck the Confederation vessels. Shields designed to disperse energy attacks proved nearly useless against physical objects moving at relativistic speeds. 3 smaller Confederation ships were disabled immediately, their hulls breached in multiple locations. Evasive maneuvers. Shunho ordered. Focus fire on the smallest vessels first. The Confederation fleet scattered, trying to present more difficult targets. Their more agile ships attempted to flank the human dreadnoughts, searching for weaknesses. One of the human behemoths turned with surprising speed for its size. Sections of its hull slid apart to reveal a weapon unlike anything the Confederation had encountered, a massive cannon that glowed with fierce blue energy. "Brace for impact," shouted Doyon. The weapon fired. A beam of concentrated energy cut through space and struck the Confederation cruiser Steadfast Purpose. The cruiser's shields overloaded instantly. Instead of exploding, the vessel simply came apart, split cleanly in 2 by the energy beam. On the bridge of the Righteous Harmony, stunned silence fell. "What was that?" Junho finally whispered. "I believe," said Sunwoo, "that we just witnessed what they call a planet cracker in operation." The tactical display showed the Confederation fleet rapidly losing cohesion. Several ships had already been disabled, and 3 had been destroyed outright. The human vessels advanced methodically, their formation never breaking. "Sir," said Communications Officer Ja, "multiple ships are requesting permission to retreat." Chunho stared at the tactical display, watching as another Confederation vessel succumbed to the human assault. Years of military training had not prepared him for this scenario, an enemy that so completely outmatched their capabilities. "Send the retreat signal," he finally ordered. "All vessels to fall back to Rally Point Delta." As the surviving Confederation ships turned to retreat, the human vessels did something unexpected. They stopped firing. "They're letting us go," realized Sunwoo. Again, the communication system activated once more. Admiral Kim's face appeared on screen. "Fleet Commander Shunho, let me be absolutely clear. What you witnessed today was a fraction of our military capability. We deployed only 1 battle group. Return to your superiors with this message. Any further aggression against human settlements will be met with our full response. There will not be another warning." The transmission ended. The surviving Confederation vessels limped away from Jupiter, their retreat unhindered by the human fleet that could easily have destroyed them all. Hours later, in the medical bay of the flagship, Sunwoo found Commander Chunho staring out a viewport at the darkness of space. 23 ships lost or damaged beyond repair, Chunho said without turning. Over 4,000 crew members dead or missing. The Council thought we were teaching the humans a lesson. Instead, we learned one. "What will you tell them?" asked Sunwoo. Chunho finally turned, his face showing a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. "The truth. That we face an adversary unlike any the Confederation has encountered. And that for the love of all that's sacred, we cannot let those human battleships join this fight in earnest. Then perhaps it's time we truly attempt to understand them," suggested Sunwoo. "Before it's too late." Chunho nodded slowly. "I believe your back-channel communication with the human diplomat may now have official approval, Officer Sunwoo. Find us a way out of this conflict before we discover what other weapons the humans have been keeping in reserve." The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Confederation had never been so silent. 17 representatives from the member species sat around the crystal table, watching the holographic replay of the Europa battle for the 3rd time. The destruction of 23 Confederation ships played out in perfect detail, a reminder of their most significant military defeat in 7 centuries. Supreme Counselor Yuma stood when the recording finished. "This is unprecedented. In all our history, no single species has inflicted such damage on our fleet." Admiral Hunky, once confident and composed, now looked haggard. "The human vessels possess technology we previously believed theoretical. Their armor absorbs our energy weapons. Their planet cracker cannons cut through our strongest shields. Most concerning of all, they appear to have perfected artificial wormhole generation for tactical jumps. How did we miss this? Demanded Counselor Jawan. How did a species with barely 2 centuries of space travel develop such capabilities? Junior Diplomatic Officer Sunwoo, recently promoted to Chief Negotiator after his warnings proved correct, stepped forward. We misunderstood fundamental aspects of human psychology and history. While the Confederation evolved through cooperation between species, humans evolved through competition and conflict. He activated a new holographic display showing Earth's historical timeline. Humans have spent more of their recorded history at war than at peace. They don't develop technology primarily for exploration or comfort like we do. They innovate fastest when threatened. Defense Minister Taeyong shook his head in disbelief. Our intelligence suggested their military consisted of a few dozen ships. They concealed their true capabilities, explained Intelligence Director Jun. What we faced so far appears to be only their rapid response forces. Our latest scans detect shipyards throughout their solar system. Based on energy signatures, we estimate they possess at least 300 capital ships, including 5 of the Dreadnought-class vessels we encountered at Europa. The chamber erupted in alarmed conversations until Counselor Yuma raised her hand for silence. "What are our options?" she asked. Admiral Hunky straightened. "We could request assistance from the Outer Rim Alliance. With their support, we might be able to contain the human expansion." "Might," emphasized Sunwoo. "Or we might trigger a conflict that spreads across half the galaxy. The humans have already deployed scout ships beyond their solar system. They're preparing for a protracted war." A new alert sounded, and Intelligence Director Jun checked her communication device. Her expression darkened immediately. "We've just received new intelligence," she announced. "Human vessels have been detected near 3 of our core worlds. They aren't attacking. They're just watching." The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. The humans knew the locations of their homeworlds. "How?" whispered Counselor Yuna. "They must have recovered navigational data from our destroyed vessels," suggested Admiral Hunky. "And they want us to know they have it," added Sunwoo. "This is another message." Defense Minister Taedong slammed his appendage on the table. "We cannot allow ourselves to be intimidated. The Confederation has stood for 12,000 years. We must deploy the Deep Space Fleet immediately." Sunwoo stepped forward again. "With respect, Minister, that would be our final mistake. Our scientists have analyzed the weapon signatures from the human dreadnoughts. The planet cracker isn't just a name. At full power, their main cannons could literally shatter a small moon." He activated another holographic image, showing a simulation of such a weapon striking a populated world. The results made several council members turn away. "If we deploy our deep space fleet and lose, we have nothing left to defend our core worlds," Sunwoo continued. "The humans know this. They're giving us an opportunity to negotiate before this escalates further." "Negotiate? After they destroyed 23 of our ships," demanded Taeyong. "After we attacked 2 of their colonies without provocation," Sunwoo corrected. "They could have destroyed our entire fleet at Europa. They chose restraint." Again, Counselor Yunha considered this. "What do you propose, Chief Negotiator?" "Give me authority to open official diplomatic channels. Let me meet with their leaders directly, not through transmissions." Admiral Hunky shook his head. "Too dangerous. They could capture you, extract information. They already have the information they need to strike our worlds," Sunwoo pointed out. "Yet they haven't. I've maintained contact with a human diplomat named Lee. She believes their leadership will agree to talks." After hours of debate, the council finally authorized Sunwoo's mission. As the meeting ended, Admiral Hunky approached him privately. "This is our last option, isn't it?" he asked quietly. Sunwoo nodded. "I've studied everything we know about humans. They're emotional, unpredictable, and frightening in battle, but they value life, even their enemies. There's something called proportional response in their military doctrine, meaning they respond with force equal to what they perceive was used against them. They attacked our ships because we attacked their colonies, but they've deliberately avoided escalation. And if negotiations fail? Asked Yunki. Sun Wu's expression grew grim. Then the Confederation as we know it may cease to exist. 3 days later, Sun Wu's diplomatic vessel approached the neutral space station orbiting Proxima Centauri. The humans had agreed to this location as it lay beyond both their territories. As his ship docked, Sun Wu felt the weight of 17 civilizations on his shoulders. The human delegation was smaller than he expected, just 3 individuals. Admiral Minji Kim, the commander who had led the Europa defense, diplomat Suho Lee, his contact, and a 3rd human whose simple black uniform bore no insignia. Chief Negotiator Sun Wu greeted Diplomat Lee. Thank you for coming in person. The Confederation recognizes the seriousness of our situation. Sun Wu replied carefully. Admiral Kim's expression remained stern. Does the Confederation recognize its responsibility for initiating hostilities? That will be part of our discussions, said Sun Wu diplomatically. The unmarked human stepped forward. We don't have time for diplomatic niceties. Your fleet is preparing to deploy from your inner territories. Our dreadnoughts are moving into position near your colony worlds. We're both one mistake away from a war that will cost billions of lives. Sun Wu studied this human carefully. You have me at a disadvantage. You know my position, but I don't know yours. Jiho Kim, President of the United Earth Government. Sun Wu's translator nearly malfunctioned as he processed this. The human head of state had come personally. Such a thing was unheard of in Confederation protocol. This is unexpected. Sun Wu managed. I commanded ships before I led our government, President Kim explained. I've seen war firsthand. I have no desire to witness it on a galactic scale. Nor do I, agreed Sun Wu. What terms would you consider for de-escalation? Admiral Kim activated a holographic display showing the human fleet positions. We will withdraw all vessels from proximity to your worlds in exchange for a binding non-aggression pact. The Council will require more than promises, said Sun Wu. Which is why we're prepared to share something with you, said President Kim, placing a small device on the table. It projected detailed schematics of human shield technology. A gesture of good faith. Sun Wu was stunned. You would share military technology. Defensive technology, corrected Diplomat Lee. We propose an exchange program. Your scientists come to Earth. Ours visit your worlds. We learn from each other rather than fear each other. Why would you do this? Asked Sun Wu. You hold the military advantage. President Kim looked him directly in the eyes. Because the purpose of strength is not domination. It's protection. We built our ships hoping never to use them. Now we've had to, and I've seen the results. I don't want to see worse. For the first time since the conflict began, Sun Wu felt genuine hope. These humans were warriors, yes, but they understood the cost of war better than the Confederation had given them credit for. I believe, Sun Wu said carefully, that we may have the beginnings of understanding between us. As the negotiations continued through the night, urgent messages from both fleets confirmed they remained in position, weapons powered but unused. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if peace could emerge from the shadow of devastating war. The neutral space station Harmony Point orbited the lifeless moon of Proxima Centauri, its crystalline structure gleaming in the red dwarf's light. Inside the main conference chamber, representatives from both humanity and the Galactic Confederation sat across from each other, surrounded by the results of 3 weeks of intense negotiations. Data pads, holographic displays, and translation devices covered the circular table between them. Chief Negotiator Sun Wu studied the final treaty text one more time. The document represented the most extensive interspecies agreement in Confederation history. Its terms had been debated word by word, concept by concept, with cultural advisors from both sides working to prevent further misunderstandings. The Council has approved the final text, Sun Wu announced, pushing aside his exhaustion. We are authorized to proceed with the signing ceremony. President Jiho Kim nodded, his weathered face showing similar signs of fatigue. Earth's parliament has also given their approval. Admiral Minji will oversee the withdrawal of our fleet from your border systems as soon as the document is signed. Sun Wu still found it remarkable that the human leader had remained personally involved throughout the negotiations. In Confederation culture, such matters would have been delegated to diplomatic staff after initial discussions. Before we formalize this agreement, Sun Wu said, there's something I must understand. Your ships could have destroyed our fleet completely at both Earth and Europa. You had the capability to strike our homeworlds, yet you showed restraint. Why? President Kim exchanged glances with Admiral Minji before answering. There's an old human saying, the true measure of strength lies not in its application, but in its restraint. We built our fleet for defense, not conquest. Yet your vessels have names that evoke destruction, countered Sun Wu. Dreadnought, destroyer, planet cracker. These terms suggest aggression. Admiral Minji leaned forward. Those names serve as warnings, both to ourselves and others. Human history is scared by warfare. We name our weapons for what they can do, so we never forget the responsibility that comes with wielding them. This concept had been difficult for the Confederation representatives to grasp. Their culture emphasized harmony and cooperation so deeply that the idea of building weapons as deterrents seemed paradoxical. We build the biggest guns hoping never to fire them, explained diplomat Suho Lee, seeing Sun Wu's continued confusion. Each battleship in our fleet represents resources that could have built hospitals or schools. We accept that burden because we believe true peace requires the strength to defend it. The explanation resonated with something Sun Wu had observed in human cultural records. Like your ancient Roman saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. Exactly, nodded President Kim. Though we prefer, if you want peace, understand war, so you can prevent it. The formal signing proceeded with representatives from both sides authenticating the document. Its key provisions established clear borders, communications protocols, cultural exchange programs, and mutual defense agreements. Most importantly, it created a permanent diplomatic mission for humans within the Confederation and vice versa. As the ceremony concluded, an alert sounded from Admiral Minji's communication device. She checked it, and her expression shifted to concern. Mr. President, we have a situation. The Righteous Harmony has suffered a critical system failure while withdrawing from the Ta City colony. Their life support is failing. President Kim turned to Sun Wu. That's one of your vessels, correct? Yes, Sun Wu confirmed, suddenly alarmed. Our flagship from the Europa engagement. It was damaged during the battle and repairs were incomplete. The President made a decision immediately. Admiral, dispatch the nearest human vessel to render assistance. Sun Wu was startled by the order. You would help the same ship that attacked your colony. The treaty we just signed includes mutual aid provisions, President Kim said simply. Besides, there are 2,000 of your people on that ship. Their lives matter, regardless of the past. Within 2 hours, the human battleship Defender arrived at the disabled Confederation vessel. Rather than keeping distance as protocol suggested, the massive human ship maneuvered alongside the failing Righteous Harmony. Specialized docking tubes extended between the vessels, allowing the Confederation crew to evacuate. Fleet Commander Chunho, who had led the attack on Europa, stood in the airlock connecting the two ships. He hesitated at the threshold, pride warring with necessity. Welcome aboard, Commander, said Captain Do-hyun of the Defender. Your crew will be safe here until repairs can be completed on your vessel. Why would you help us? Chunho asked bluntly. I commanded the fleet that attacked your people. Captain Do-hyun's expression remained professional. Today you're not an enemy, Commander. You're the leader of 2,000 people who need assistance. That's all that matters right now. This simple statement encapsulated something fundamental about humanity that the Confederation had failed to understand. Humans could be fierce warriors one moment and compassionate helpers the next, with no contradiction in their minds. 1 year later, Sun Wu stood on the observation deck of the newly established Galactic Cooperation Center on Earth's moon. The facility represented the first permanent Confederation presence in human space. Through the transparent dome, he could see Earth rising over the lunar horizon, a blue-white sphere that had produced a species unlike any the Confederation had encountered before. "Quite a view, isn't it?" asked Diplomat Li, now serving as the human ambassador to the Confederation. "Beautiful," agreed Sun Wu. "And to think we nearly went to war over cultural misunderstandings." Below them, in the main atrium of the center, human and alien children participated in the first interspecies educational program. Young humans played alongside the offspring of 12 different Confederation species, learning each other's languages and customs. "The exchange programs have been more successful than we anticipated," Li noted. "Over 500 of our scientists are currently working on Confederation worlds, and nearly 800 of yours are studying at our universities." "Knowledge flows both ways now," said Sun Wu. "Your defensive technologies are being integrated into our colony shields. Our medical advances are helping human hospitals." A group of human visitors passed by, heading toward the museum section of the center. There, the decommissioned human battleship HSS Resolute had been transformed into a permanent exhibition. Once a weapon of war, it now served as a monument to peace and a reminder of how close both civilizations had come to destruction. "There's something I've wanted to ask you," Sun Wu said after the visitors passed. "When your ships first detected our diplomatic vessel approaching Earth, why didn't you destroy it immediately? Your defensive protocols would have justified such action." Li smiled. "One of our military analysts noticed something unusual about your ship's approach vector. He said, they're coming in slow and obvious. Either they're incredibly stupid, or they want to talk. We decided to assume the latter." "A fortunate assumption," Sun Wu replied. "If you had fired first, the Confederation would have launched a full-scale war in response. And if you had attacked our homeworld instead of a colony, we would have done the same," Li acknowledged. "We both stepped back from that precipice." In the distance, a new vessel rose from Earth's surface, the first joint human Confederation exploration ship. Its mission would take it beyond known space, carrying representatives from both civilizations to seek out new life and new possibilities. "The ship's name was well chosen," observed Li, watching the vessel accelerate toward the stars. Sun Wu nodded in agreement. The name emblazoned on the ship's hull seemed to capture everything they had learned from their near-disastrous first contact. "Understanding. For the love of all that's sacred," he said softly, recalling his desperate warning from a year earlier. "We found a better way than letting the battleships decide our fate." "Sometimes," replied Li, "the hardest part of peace is believing it's possible." As night fell on the lunar base, lights from human cities became visible on Earth's surface. Simultaneously, the first transport ships from the Confederation homeworlds arrived, bringing more visitors eager to learn about their new allies. Where once there had been misunderstanding and fear, now there was curiosity and hope. The foundation for something greater than either civilization could have achieved alone.